Good morning, everybody. We're going to start today's meeting. This is the regular monthly open meeting of the Third Laguna Hills Mutual Board of Directors, a California nonprofit mutual benefit corporation. Today is Tuesday, May 16th, 2023, and it's 9:30 a.m. We are here in the boardroom, as well as available for viewing on TV6, Zoom, and Granicus. So those of you watching, good morning. I'd like to start by calling the meeting to order, so we have a quorum. And first thing on the agenda is a Pledge of Allegiance led by Director Ralph Engel. Ralph?
Please stand and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you, Ralph. It's now time to approve today's agenda. Can I get a motion to approve today's agenda? I can't talk already, it's going to be bad. I see Andy move, Chris seconds, thank you. Any suggested changes to today's agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll consider the agenda approved by consent. And we're now looking to approve the meeting minutes for two different meetings. Let's address each of them separately. Can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes for last month's open board meeting held on April 18th? Ira moves. Chris seconds, thank you. Any suggested changes to those minutes? Seeing none, we'll consider those approved by consent. And can I get a motion now to approve the minutes of the agenda prep meeting held on May 5th? Ira moves, Ralph seconds. Thank you both. Any suggested changes to those minutes? Great. Seeing none, consider those approved by consent. We're moving on to agenda item 5, which is the report of the chair. As a reminder, within the next few weeks, the first of several 2024 budget proposals for Third will be presented to the board and our mutual members. The first presentation will be on Wednesday, May 31st at 9:30 a.m. here in the boardroom, and will focus on maintenance and construction as well as general services. Then on the next day, Thursday, June 1st at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom, there will be a second meeting where the focus will be on landscaping services. As we all know, the cost of almost everything is going up year over year, including the cost of staff and supplies, which are the main components of Third's budget. The Third board continues to work with staff and the VMS board to identify and implement efficiencies and process improvements to help offset these rising costs and improve services. However, the efficiencies and improvements identified to date may not be enough to allow us to maintain our community as our members expect without significant increase to our monthly assessments. One of the key decisions this board will need to make is whether or not to continue our efforts on improving staff efficiencies and processes while maintaining our current monthly assessments near current levels. This may mean several more months where our services, such as landscaping, which was the number one issue when I asked members for their priorities for this year, might not look as well as we would expect. Another option is to raise our monthly assessments to ensure that VMS has the staff needed to better maintain our community. Of course, the Third members have elected this board to make those difficult decisions and find the right balance between costs and services. But even so, I'd like to hear from you members. So please attend these upcoming budget meetings, listen to the proposals, and share your suggestions and thoughts as to how to best proceed and how you would like your monthly assessments spent. With your input, we will all work to make the best decision for our community. And that completes my remarks for today. As always, thanks for your support and thanks for listening. I'm now going to move on to agenda item 6, where we'll have an update from the VMS board. Director Mary Cito is providing today's update. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning,
Thanks for
President Laws, distinguished directors of the Third Mutual Board, staff, as well as my fellow residents. I'm very pleased to be here this morning to provide the VMS update. Let's start first with taking a look back. at what happened. And as always, the employees kind of are front and center of a lot of that discussion. We continue to believe that our employees are truly our greatest asset. And as a result of that, we created the Bright Ideas program, which is really an employee suggestion program. We feel it's a great way to tap into our employees' knowledge and their creativity, and it truly creates a win-win for both, where they get some monetary rewards, and we as a community get the benefit of the savings ideas that they've created. To date, we've had 9 suggestions. We've made 3 awards, which have totaled $1,500 to the employees. And very significantly, it's created a savings of about $48,000 a year for the community. And these we expect to be recurring savings, so that becomes very, very significant. In addition, there are 6 suggestions currently under review. Already, we've identified one as being very high potential with estimated savings of about $25,000 a year. It pertains to the water heater procurement process, so we're very excited about that. The other 5 are still under review, but we fully expect that there will be additional savings derived from those suggestions as well. So we're really excited about this program, and we feel it's going to continue to pick up steam as employees start to see other people getting awards, getting money for their suggestions, as well as feeling that we take them very seriously, that this isn't just, talk, that we walk the talk, so to speak. On another note, as President Laws referred to before, the job market continues to be a real challenge with wage increases and so on. And we continue to struggle with filling and retaining positions within the village. We have a higher number of vacancies than we really want, our target being about 50 vacancies, but we're currently still in the high 70s, which we're not very happy about. And it has forced us to really look into more creative ways to fill positions. And one of them is in trying to tap into the potential of a very large pool, which we consider to be our own residents. We've had a great deal of success in the past with hiring our own residents, with like gate ambassadors, staffing of clubhouses. They're very committed, very happy. It's a win-win for everyone, and we're looking to create more of those positions so that we can tap into that. We also have spent time reviewing our turnover statistics to see why people leave the jobs that they've taken on. And what we found is that most terminations or turnover has occurred in the first 3 to 6 months of employment, which is pretty typical with most companies. It's with new employees that don't quite have loyalty yet, and they tend to jump, even for 50 cents, $1 more an hour, they'll jump. And that's what we're seeing here. The other reason for the turnover has been in something kind of unrelated to us, which might be like spousal relocations or for family reasons where people need to move closer to family. Over the past year, VMS has made a real concerted effort to recover from the pandemic by restoring amenities to pre-pandemic levels and improving customer service, which, as we all know, did suffer during the pandemic. To measure performance objectively, we've developed key performance indicators. Though we are implementing a new ERP system, we did not want to constantly wait until that's in place in order to develop these. However, we also didn't want to spend a whole lot of money creating very complex KPIs that might then be, changed because of new information that's yielded through the ERP system. So we kind of stayed with some simple measures to use in the interim. Starting first with hold times. Nothing more frustrating than making a phone call or walking in and having to wait a very long time. So this is one of the first areas that we took a look at. In the broadband call area, we've done pretty well with continual progress from November all the way to March, where we finally achieved our service level target of 90% with 91% of calls answered and an average hold time of 1:12 versus a target of 3 minutes. So we're pretty happy with the progress in that area. Unfortunately, in the maintenance, as well as the manor alteration statistics, it's not quite as favorable. We saw a huge surge in maintenance call requests in January, following a kind of a lull during the holiday period, which is not unusual, okay? People are more focused on the holidays than looking around at everything that might need to be fixed, unless it's a real emergency. But those numbers have remained high through March. Part of what we feel it might be from was the heavy amount of rain we experienced in the first quarter, and that tends to create some water intrusion problems, which are pretty big issues, and that can cause havoc in the community. With regard to manor alterations, we've, as you can see, the number of calls received and visitors has really surged in the beginning of the year. We were able to hire a new manager, Mike Horton, who we're really, really excited about. He's a third-generation contractor with finance experience in addition to that, so that's really exciting. And he's been able to make some breakthroughs in improving the process. I won't steal his thunder because he's going to be talking to you about it later, but I did want to mention that. With regard to the walk-in statistics, again, those numbers went up pretty significantly in the beginning of the year, with going from December 4,300 all the way up to close to 5,400 in January. But luckily, we've been able to maintain wait times which were below the service level target of 7 minutes for wait time. So we're pretty happy about that overall. Of course, there is room for improvement, and we continue to look for ways in which to do that. One of the most important things in these statistics is once a service has been rendered, how happy is the resident with what they received? And overall, what we've done is sent out surveys to people after a service has been rendered to find out how happy they are. And I'm pleased to report that the residents were very happy. They gave us ratings of above 4.5 out of 5 in each of the areas, like your call center experience, their maintenance experience, time it took to respond, employee courtesy, expectations met, and so on. So each of those categories came above the 4.5, which was our target. But obviously, the closer we get to 5, the more happy we are, and of course, our residents are. So as in anything, there's continuously room for improvement. What we're doing is we continue to emphasize training of our employees so that we can share best practices, update employees on procedures, cross-training, job rotations, and the like. Because especially with as many openings and vacancies that we've had within the department, it's more crucial than ever to be more creative in terms of where we can put our employees. We're looking at even creating floater positions, which enable us to have more flexibility to put people where it's needed most. And that does change over time because it's a dynamic process. Next is just a snapshot of the completed service orders within Third Mutual. We realize that this report at first glance is not that meaningful in terms of giving you exact information. However, we have to start from somewhere. And we put together this report to first show the number of service orders we received, and then understand where the service orders occur, to identify what departments that they're coming in on, and then showing the percentage completed in 20 days. We use that as an initial target. Obviously, there's so much variation between different service orders. Damage restoration, those tend to be much more complex than you might have a little simple painting of a guardrail or landscaping of removing a plant. So with that, we do recognize that we're going to need to break out service requests with greater granularity so we can identify more meaningful targets for completion. If you look at the chart, you'll notice that the most number of calls come in the plumbing area, which I think also relates to the huge amount of rain that we had. But I think overall it's pretty consistent throughout. And then the second area is with landscaping. As you said, we do recognize that it is an area we need to focus on. And the last is on carpentry. Another metric that we look at is on escrow, how long it takes to close. And we have a performance objective of about 20 days, and we're currently at that, although we're looking to continually improve. One of the ways in which we're looking to do so is with electronic submittal of these packages for buyers and escrow companies to use, rather than necessarily having to send in packages, either hand delivery or by mail. The other thing that we do is once a package is received, we'll do a preliminary review just to make sure all of the information is in place. There's nothing more frustrating than something to sit in queue and then later on say, well, you never sent in this information. So it's better to look at that, ask for that information, so that when we really get to the point of evaluating, all of the information is in place. We're also looking to participate in the website redesign so that when that website is completed, it has very meaningful data and is useful to the people using it. In the escrow process, we've identified realtors as a real important part of the process, and hence we had our first spring real estate forum on May 3rd, where over 120 people participated. We went through a pretty extensive program with the resales going through the entire resale process. Online, there is a 45-page document listing all of the steps that are required. And we're really encouraging realtors to go through that extensively so they understand what is needed and it doesn't hold up the process. And an important part of that is to look at the financial qualification guidelines. There's nothing worse than going through a process and having a sale fall through because somebody didn't meet the guidelines, and that should have been able to be identified fairly easily. Next is going through the inspection process to confirm that all the proper permits were in place, and that there's compliance with building requirements like hot water heaters not being older than 10 years or low flow toilets in place, things like that. The damage restoration process, so that hopefully when a sale occurs, that anything that needed to be fixed to bring it up to code, so to speak, or to our requirements have been met. And lastly, to really go over what our HOA insurance policies are so that the realtors have an understanding, that buyers have an understanding, and that they know what the owner is responsible for so that they can get the proper insurance for that. We have a second forum scheduled for the summertime on Wednesday, July 19th, and we expect even more realtors to show up for that. Next, we have our Employee Excellence Awards that's scheduled for May 22nd at 2 p.m. in Clubhouse 7. We encourage all of our directors to be able to be present for this so that we can recognize outstanding employees who have continually perform above and beyond. It's great for them to see the interest in the community and their support and backing. It just makes them feel good, and it's important. We have the union contract, which expires at the end of November. We are going to be looking to put more pressure on them to help us with the recruiting process. And the fact that we continue to have these large number of vacancies pushes us to ask for more flexibility with how these are filled. And that will be part of the union negotiation process. We've asked for a lot of feedback from the directors of all of the boards. And thank you for helping us with this, because it truly is a group effort and it's extremely important to the community. We have the VMS bylaws being reviewed again. We've gotten feedback from all of the mutuals again, and we're moving slowly through the process, but we hope to finalize that soon. Next, we have the Club Expo 2023 that's scheduled for May 18th. One of the big attractions of Laguna Woods Village is the many clubs that we have here with over 200 in place, but it doesn't do any good if residents don't know what they are. And so the Club Expo is to give people an opportunity to see what is out there, encourage them to join. Because as we all know, an engaged community, people who are active in the community tend to be happier with the community. And it's a big asset that we bring. Next, we have the Village Renaissance Fair. It's the second annual event of this. The first one was a huge success last year, lots of fun. I would encourage, as many people as possible to attend. It's on a Saturday, so you could also bring family, and it's at the Equestrian Center. And it's an opportunity to enjoy some good food, performances, and fun for everyone. Then we have Memorial Day, a remembrance event to kind of pay respect to those who died serving our country. It will be featuring the All-American Boys Chorus as well as some guest speakers. So we have that scheduled at Clubhouse 3. And lastly, we have the 9th Annual Laguna Woods Village Art Fair. I'm always extremely, if anybody goes to Clubhouse 4, I'm extremely impressed by the talents that we have in our community, the beautiful pieces of artwork that they've been able to create. I'm always envious, somebody who lacks all artistic talent, but it's a great place for people to showcase the work that they've done, as well as to be able to make them available for sale in some cases. So I hope to see all of you there in terms of supporting, our artists and our community. With that, I thank you, and are there any questions?
Great, thank you, Mary. Anybody have any questions for Mary at this time?
Well, thank you very
wonderful,
much.
thorough report. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. We will now move on to agenda item 7, which is our open forum. At this time, members may address the Board of Directors regarding items within the jurisdiction of this Board of Directors and not on the agenda. The board reserves the right to limit the total amount of time allotted for this open forum agenda to 30 minutes. Each member is asked to speak for no more than 3 minutes. A member may speak only once during the forum, and speakers may not give their time to other people. Members who are not in the boardroom at this time can also share their comments by joining this meeting via Zoom or by emailing your comments to meeting@vmsinc.org to have your message read during this open forum, should time permit. Michaela, are there any requests by members to speak for us with this?
Yes, we have a handful of requests. The first one is on Zoom, and it's Miss Susan Smallwood.
Good morning, directors. I urge the directors of Third to put on hold the agreement regarding the common area. There is no reason to pass on the exorbitant fees of $750 for a resident asking for a variance for common area. In 2017, Third had in effect Resolution 3-17-77 that common area was allowed to be utilized under California Civil Code 4600. The fee for the variance and the following cost of covenant was only $150. This covenant to run with the land and grant of common area for exclusive use that the resident and Third signed was notarized and recorded with the Orange County Recorder's Office. It specifically states, whereas notwithstanding the defined responsibility of the Third and/or owner for maintenance, repair, and/or replacement as set forth in the declaration, owner, as opposed to Third, agrees to be solely responsible for the cost of all maintenance, repair, and/or replacement of their modifications or damage to their property, any other owner's property within the project or the common area caused or related in any manner to the modifications to indemnify, defend, and hold the Third harmless from same, and to agree to be responsible for the modification as further described in this covenant. Please do not pass on Rosamond's request for a boilerplate agreement of $750 to our senior residents. This reminds me of VMS overcharging our residents with regard to a solar alterations permit in the amount of $700 in 2019. And thankfully, our directors today reviewed it and discovered that the permit should only cost approximately $230. A big disservice to those senior residents who overpaid by $500 in the last 4 years. Please stop this nonsense and review the above documents before you put more money in the pockets of Roseman's law firm. Remember, it's just a boilerplate where you insert the resident's name and what they are asking for. This is exactly the reason so many residents last year requested that you fire Gottlieb's firm due to her outrageous spending of our seniors' funds. I urge you also to speak to Kurt Wyman, who was the former alterations director, who knows about the incidents that occurred to cause these harmful stoppage of common area. I greatly appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smallwood. And next, Michaela.
Next speaker is Catherine Platt.
Hi, I'm Kitty Platt, 3249B, and I'm a third member and a real estate agent, and I'm representing the sellers in the sale of a third mutual condo. And one of the things I'm going to talk about are the guidelines that Mary Cito was talking about, all the realtors needed to read, because I did read these, and something is not in the guidelines that I'm going to be talking about. The condo that I'm involved in is owned by a trust, and the trustee that lived in the unit passed away at the age of 107. So the family members are selling it now, and they're the co-successor trustees. It's the daughter and the granddaughter. And the condo's been on the market for about 3 months. The family has accepted 2 prior offers, and both times the buyers canceled because of the amount of work and money that renovations would require. So this is a very stressful time for the family, of course. They had to deal with loss and then memories as they cleared out the unit, and now they're having to deal with selling it and now canceling escrow 2 times already. So they accepted a third offer from Saul-Gavelli, who does buys condos and redoes them and resells them and does a really nice remodeling job. But primarily, they felt confident that he knew the amount of work and the costs that would be involved in renovating the unit, and that he would be willing to move forward quickly with the sale. But in escrow, Saul was informed that although his assets were adequate, he needed to show an income of $420,000. So he was somewhat close to that, but falling short of that, to buy another unit. Since he already owns 2 condos and a co-op, and he's a guarantor on his mother's condo. So I don't see, I read through the mutual guidelines, financial criteria many times, because I work in here a lot, but the financial criteria, I don't see anywhere in there where it says that $150,000 income needed to be shown for his mother's, to be a guarantor on his mother's, would be added to the additional income that's added for every unit you buy, one after the other. So it's not in there. And if this is the actual policy, it needs to be published so all the agents, the public, the sellers and buyers are all aware of their requirements before they make offers or get offers accepted and get into escrow and then find out that it's much more than what they thought it was. We just would like this to go through. This is not a unit that the buyer will hold. He's going to renovate it and sell it, increasing the values of all third mutual property owners' properties. The seller would be happy to move forward with this transaction, which they feel would not only relieve them, but would also benefit the community by improving the unit with upgrades and ultimately increase current owners' property values. Sellers need to know where the documentation that this buyer does not qualify is. They want to know whether he's likely to get board
Ms.
approval or
Platt,
not.
Sorry, don't mean to really cut you off. I think we understand you're asking for us to make sure that we publish this information about multi-unit owners, multi-owner units, something like that.
And
So,
since it's not published and he complies with the publish, go ahead and go through with this one. You know,
okay,
that's what-
we will take a look. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Next speaker is Saul Gibley.
Good morning, board members. My name is Saul Gvili. I forgot my glasses, so it will be kind of difficult. Reading glasses. I've been a real estate agent, as Kitty said, here. I've used this time to renovate and buy and sell properties. I own 2 condos, 1 co-op, and I'm guarantor of my mom's condo, which you heard already. As I said, I worked here approximately on a dozen condos in the village, purchased them, performed complete remodeling, and then sold them for a profit. In each of these instances, the buyers were consistently choosing to reside in the company, resulting in the collection of additional $7,500 by GRF through this transaction. None of these properties have been acquired by investors for rental purposes, so that's a real benefit for the community. The arrangement has been proven to be mutually beneficial for the buyers, the community, and myself. I've always been confused by the method you use to verify my qualifications to purchase another condo. According to your rules, I need to prove an income of over $400,000 for this condo that I'm trying to purchase, working with Kitty here. However, it was my first unit. If it was my first unit, an income of $45,000 would suffice. So you're looking at me as a higher risk than somebody who is making $45,000 a year to buy 1 condo. I understand and appreciate the fact that the board wants to make sure that buyers of condos and co-ops are able to pay the HOA fees. That's really important to make sure that they can do that. Otherwise, we can be in trouble. However, I believe that in my case and similar cases, this requirement goes a little too far. I mean, $400,000, $420,000 seems a bit too far in terms of requirements. There is a condo I would like to purchase, remodel, and sell, but I cannot show the required income. It is simply too high. I would suggest that if anyone is purchasing a unit, that's my suggestion, of course, for your consideration, for the same purpose as me, to buy, fix, and sell. Instead of requiring such a high and uncommon income, we should ask for a bond that would cover 2 years of the HOA fees. This process of purchasing, rehabilitating, and selling a condo takes around 6 to maximum of 12 months. Therefore, this 2-year bond would be enough to assure the board that the HOA payments will be made. And again, when you buy a condo to rehabilitate, you make sure that it's not going to be, you cannot occupy it, you have to sell it. And this is a commitment that I made to the board. Including this requirement with the more reasonable income requirement and asset would probably be even more logical. I appreciate your consideration in this matter, and I would be happy to provide any more information or help if necessary. Thank you so much. Look at me, perfect timing. I will leave this one for you guys to review.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Robert Stace.
Good morning, board members. My complaint is with I live at 2381 via Mariposa West, 3D. My complaint is with the washers and dryers. The board purchased them. I don't feel they did a reasonable due diligence on the longevity of the dryers. They're in poor condition. They're relatively new. The technicians inform me they don't have the parts to repair them, so they have to take them out or replace them. In my building, they break constantly. The digital boards are worthless. When you negotiated the purchase of them, they should have negotiated, instead of a year warranty, as much as you spent, you should have negotiated at least a 5-year warranty on them. If you'd done the due diligence, you wouldn't have bought them. They're just not commercial. They're terrible. They're constantly breaking. The technicians inform me it's all over the village. So you need to go and purchase enough spare parts. so they can repair them. Currently, they can't repair them. They have to pull one out and bring another one in. So it's a real issue. People that are handicapped in my building, they're in walkers, and they're going from the third floor to the second floor to wash, and up to the third floor again to dry. It's an imposition for them. So I also have a resident that's selling, and people are looking at their unit, beautiful unit, but they won't buy it because it doesn't have a washer and dryer. They've had 3 people look at it, make offers. And when they discovered that it didn't have a washer and dryer, it's an issue when people don't have washers and dryers in their units. And that's something that you guys need to resolve. People, we live in the modern era, not Camp Pendleton. They want a washer and dryer in their unit. They don't want to put on a bathrobe, go to the laundry room, to discover it's in use, go back, go in again, put it in, come back, put it in the dryer, come back and take it out. It's really an inconvenience. People don't want it. So the other issue is when people do work around the building, in the grounds, there's no supervisor following up to see if they're doing the work properly and on time. So you need to get supervisors out in the field and all the different maintenance things to look at it to make sure they're doing things the way they should. So one other issue, I have a broken pipe in the building. It's been broken for 2 years. I've reported it over and over again, taken pictures, brought it in here. It's still broken. It sprays water on the grounds in front of the stairs, and one of these days, someone's going to slip and fall when it rains. So I don't know what else I can do. I've even shown it, Ralph saw it several months ago, but it's got to be fixed. Someone's going to fall. It's a safety issue. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Stace.
Next speaker is Carol Moore.
Good morning. I'm here this morning, first off, to tell you that we received our financials, and we are so happy with you. I want to thank each of you for all the time that you put in, because I know how many difficult decisions you have to make, and look what happened. When we got those financials, we were so happy. And your taking the time to volunteer for this community is very important, and we do appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The last 2 are emails that were sent in. The first one is from Dave Osterman, and they stated, "It seems that since Section 2.19 allows 45 days processing time from the receipt of a completed application, then it seems reasonable for Third to give the owner in Section 3.4 a minimum of 45 days, except for emergencies, to remove, alter, cover, or replace the solar panel. In my experience, VMS is slow to respond and slow to act. Allowing VMS/Third process time to be 50% longer than the manor owner is allowed goes in the wrong direction. VMS/Third should respond as fast or faster than manor owners. VMS staff are professionals who better understand the process, requirements, and efforts involved. Manor owners often are facing an issue for the first time, certainly are not professionals, and must look for assistance to get a task completed. Once they have determined who can address the issue, they still need to have the work scheduled, and they do not control the contractor schedule." And the next email is from Chris Collins regarding the foundation report of Laguna Woods Village for May 2023. And they stated the following. "This is an update of the work of the foundation of Laguna Woods Village on behalf of residents experiencing temporary financial crisis. What your donations made possible. The foundation of Laguna Woods Village recently held its annual retreat. It's a special occasion when the board looks at what we tried to accomplish in the past and then goes on to identify needs/issues to guide our future activities. In this context, we identified accomplishments during the past 5 years, but we soon realized that we could not have done any of them without the support of the village. These are really your accomplishments. We are grateful for your support. Some of the highlights of the past 5 years include implemented program to address food insecurity with weekend and holidays delivered meals with AgeWell to supplement Meals on Wheels program. Started transportation program to the food pantry for those without their own transportation to supplement weekly food supplies. Provided $30,000 in grocery cards during the first year of the pandemic. Funded shopping service for shut-in residents during the pandemic. Worked with the Village and Memorial Hospital to provide COVID vaccinations on site in the Village, and expanded program to provide emergency response devices to needy fall-prone residents with approximately 70 funded last year. Helped fund over 77,000 Meals on Wheels last year in the Village, provided funds to the Village Library for large print books, funded Holiday Adopt a Senior program involving nearly 125 residents this year alone, cooperated with UCI to continue fall prevention programs with 2 additional series, funded cognitive behavior therapy training for social services staff to address social isolation and depression post-pandemic, provided financial assistance to needy residents during the past 5 years with nearly $115,000 provided last year alone, implemented financial assistance program with Braille to assist low vision residents, continued providing funds for earthquake kits, care ambulance contracts, and taxi vouchers to needy residents, and celebrated the Foundation's 25th anniversary. This article is part of our 2023 effort to spread the word about help available. If you would like a Foundation representative to speak to your group, or if you have any questions about the services available, please contact the Foundation at 949-268-2246 or foundation@comline.com. For more information about the Foundation, please go to our website at foundationoflagunawoodsvillage.org. Please note that donations can always be made using PayPal on the Foundation website. And that is all for open forum speakers.
Great, thank you, Michaela. Thanks. Anybody have any responses to any of our open forum members? So, MK, I saw yours first.
Thank you. Mr. Robert Stays, could you tell me your building number or unit number, please?
2381 via Mariposa West.
2381?
Yes, via Mariposa West, Unit 3, D as in dog.
Okay, so you're a 3-story building.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. And another comment that I want to make is on the VMS report and completed service orders, it does not have any item over 80 days, but I just a week ago initiated a work for the carpentry. It was about 6-month-old work. So I don't know how she got all this statistics, but I will request to review all these numbers. Thank you.
Thank you, SK. Ralph?
Yes, Mr. Bates, again, you mentioned a broken pipe. Was that a vertical pipe from the drainage system? Is that correct?
Yes.
I remember seeing that. I specifically asked about that just recently, within the last week, and was told that had been repaired.
It's been like that
follow
for
up
24
again.
months. I've come in here with pictures of it. I've repeated over and over again. The trouble is, the stairs come down,
I
there's
remember.
a sidewalk, and someone, when it rains, it's flooded.
Yeah.
Someone is going to fall, and then there's going to be a problem with the village.
I remember seeing that. I know you showed it to me when I
It's
was
still
out
sitting there, untouched.
Okay, I'll check into that specifically. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks. Seeing no others, I'll just real quickly comment. Ms. Malwood will talk further more on this variance request fee during agenda item 13C today. Ms. Platt and contractor, I'll work with staff to see what we can do to make sure that the policy is published, and if it already is, make sure it's more visible perhaps than it is. The idea of a bond, good idea, so the financial requirements to live and own in our village are on our list of things that we want to be looking at here over the next several months. So we'll add those two things to the list. But specifically, I'll look into this specific situation and get some more details and get back with you on it. Mr. Stace, you mentioned common washers and dryers don't work. Yes, it's something that we know about. Some of us even have experienced that. We just, in our recent Maintenance and Construction Committee meeting, authorized the purchase of different, hopefully better, definitely a little more expensive on our side, but we understand that if the current ones that we're using are breaking and the mechanical pads continue to not work, that we need to go in a different direction. So we're going to give that a shot, and hopefully that'll help improve things for our common washers and dryers. I also noticed that you were in favor of washers and dryers in the three-story units. That is something that the ACSC, the Architectural Control and Standards Committee, continues to work on to try to make sure that the standard is complete before we present that again for review and potential approval. And we continue to follow up with staff regarding supervision of their team members. So we'll continue to do that. And then, Mr. Osterman, if you're listening, you were the first email that was read. We heard you, and I'm not sure we quite understood your concern, so I will reach out to you and make sure that I get a little more detail so that we can respond to you. And Ms. Moore, thank you for your thanks. And Ms. Collins, thanks for the update on the Laguna Woods Foundation. And Jim, you had something to say?
Yes, as far as Susan Smallwood's comments about the $750 pass-through fee to the attorney, we have 3 variances pending that would have been categorically denied had we not set up this process. We had our corporate counsel go with us on a tour of the village, finding a lot of the unique situations we have. And with that, what was advised was that on specific occasions where we're going outside the perimeter of the existing unit that is actually common area, not exclusive use common area, but actual common area where it's a benefit under 4600, that we needed to have not a generic boilerplate, but a specific revocable license for those people. So you have to look at the advantage of what they're getting to use, and it's no profit to the HOA. It's just to protect the HOA, protect other members, and protect the members that are going to be having the use of common area. And that's why it's been established. Otherwise, the 3 applications would have been categorically denied. It's easy to say no. It's a lot harder to say yes with limitations. And in this case, the limitations are a revocable license that does not run with the land, that can be brought back to its original non-common area intrusion, and that is why it's been established. It's much better for it to be done this way, for people to get an advantage for a small amount of $750 rather than just say no. And so that's the justification of why it's been done that way. Again, to protect the HOA, protect the members as a whole, and protect the member that wants to go into the common area on a very limited basis.
Thanks for that. I may have you repeat it and when we get to 13C. All right. Thanks, board. Appreciate that. And thanks all the speakers. We're now up to agenda item 9. As you may have recall, to each of our monthly board meetings this year, we've been adding a department update segment where one of the leaders of VMS provides a short presentation about their organization to help communicate with our members who the leaders are within the VMS and the key activities that they're working on. Joining us today are Bart Mejia and Michael Horton. They're going to be sharing some information about maintenance and construction and manor alterations. Or maybe just manor alterations, I don't know.
Thank you, President Laws and board members. I do thank you for the opportunity to talk about manor alterations and the improvements that have been made in the last few months. As you recall, and some of you may have experienced, not too long ago, it was not unusual for a mutual consent to take up to 8 weeks to be processed, or a variance to take 3 to 4 months to process, or take 2 weeks to respond to emails, or return phone calls. So last year, manor alterations was the subject of numerous vacancies, illnesses, COVID, and very limited supply of candidates that were qualified to fill the vacancies that we had. We've worked very hard, but overall, it has been all hands on deck to try to provide a better customer service and improve on the delivery of the services that manor alterations provides. So a few of the actions that have been taken over the last few months include retaining the services of consultants and the assistance of other departments to help manor alterations with the backlog of resales, inspections, mutual consents, and intakes. Have approved overtime for staff to help us catch up with the backlog. We have worked very closely with you and your committees to update critical standards and policies, to streamline processes and to focus on compliance with mutual rules and regulations, and not to duplicate the work that the city is doing. One of those changes include rescheduling the ACSC meeting to be at a week and a day before the board meeting, and that helps expedite the processing of variances, which is now down to 4 to 6 weeks at the maximum to process them, instead of the 3 to 4 months that it was taken before. We've worked very closely and continue to work very closely with the city to maintain an open line of communication where our main emphasis is to make sure that we each understand our mutual roles and to find ways of improving customer service. I hope that you have seen too some improvements on the customer service from the city side, as well as we have improved our processes. So have they, and they provide similar responses to plan checks and the issuance of permits. We are currently working, and we have a few of our standards before you today, and we will continue to work on more of those for the same purposes, that is to expedite the processing, to streamline the process, and to facilitate the processing of the various applications. We have worked very hard with human resources, and we have filled all of the vacancies that we had up to now, including filling the position of manor alterations manager. We've been fortunate to have found Mike Horton, who has been with us for the past for 3 months now. So he's now a seasoned manager in manor alterations. He has worked very hard. He is already making a difference. Mike is here with us, and he will continue with the presentation. He has a few slides to share with some metrics that he has been able to compile and share that with you. And both of us will be available to answer any questions at the conclusion of the presentation. Mike?
Good morning, everyone. The first slide you guys are looking at right there with manor alterations, those 6 bullet points are really the core competency of manor alterations division. The first 3 that you see there, the mutual consents, the variances, the resales, inspections, one of the first things that I did when I got here was review all of our processes and see where our time was being spent. Those first 3 bullet points make up 80% of my staff's time. And so if we go to the next slide, please. So when we looked at that, of that 80% of mutual consents, the approvals, and the resale process, I said, okay, what's holding up what's slowing us down? What's the cog in the wheel here? And what it came down to is these two specific points: the removal of the asbestos report for mutual consent, and sending it to where it belongs, which is the city's responsibility and the AQMD's responsibility as a regulatory committee to make sure that we are upholding as the law is written correctly. As well as the other process was a lot of confusion around just the certificate of insurance. So what we simply did is shrunk the form down. I gave 8 direct bullet points of who to contact and how to get that done. And what that did, last year in 22, in the first quarter, we were actually taking 3 to 4 weeks to get a mutual consent reviewed, approved, and then processed. I am very proud to say that as of the end of March, we were taking 5 business days. So from the time that we were receiving it, literally it comes in on a Monday and we're having it approved on a Friday. Next slide, please. The other thing is one of the people that I was very happy to be working with and introduced to is Chuck with our IT department, because we have a ton of information and a ton of data available for us in order to make this. So what we are working on standardizing reports for you guys so that we can use them as managerial review reports. But this is essentially what happened in the Q1 for the third. We literally did 486 tickets total. 221 of them were for mutual consents or alterations, which made up, as I said, the lion's share of our time. And if we want to go to the next slide. So what is done, now very interestingly, the third of the 12,700, 12,900 homes we have in this community, 48% of them are in the third, but the third makes up about 56 to 58% of our consents and processes for alterations. So this is just a slide for both, but if you saw the previous slide, that was 220, 240 alterations of the 380 that we did in the first quarter. What I like to look at is obviously the economy was booming in 2022. We were just getting out of COVID, so we were extremely busy. Our numbers are identical year over year, and our process has gotten into 5 days instead of 3 weeks, which is a fantastic result. Next slide, please. So, and then, and this is our next process. So, as I said, I looked at where all our time was being spent. We've actually, fine-tuned and expedited the process for consents to be approved. Now, today, this afternoon at 1 o'clock, I've got a focus group with the resales department and our real estate agents, as well as brokers and escrow departments, because as you guys saw from our first presentation from Director Aceto, you can see it's important to get those escrows closed. So what I'm going to do is sit down with 2 different groups on Tuesday and Thursday of this week, find out the same process to see where we're slowed down in the process. The great news is from the first inspection, from the time that we're receiving the phone call to the time the inspection report is being sent to the resident, it's taken about 5 business days, 5.5 days, which is fantastic. That inspection report is good for 180 days. And so as we say to our residents, the sooner we can get that inspection report done, then the sooner that we can get it documented on what is an alteration and what is maintenance and what needs to be done so we can close the escrow. What we're going to be focusing on later today and this week is to find out, the communication aspect, what's missing in the process between the communication between us and the current resident with the new resident so we can expedite that process. Next slide, please. So back to what I really said, with 80% of our time being spent with mutual consents and resales, we had 686 emails in the queue. Starting when I didn't know what that meant. I literally, Bart was telling me, and I got to meet with Vice President Mr. Cook, and I didn't know what 686 emails meant, but I certainly do now. And so what I can say is that our residents very happily on May 3rd, we were down to 3 emails in the queue, and I very much enjoy watching it go from 20 or 30 back down to 3, and the process being handled correctly. The other aspect on that is our telephone averages. You guys can see 32% is what we were averaging for calls answered in 22. In the first quarter, we're at 88%. our goal and our service level agreement is to make sure that we answer 90% of the phone calls and we get back to everybody within 48 hours if we do miss a phone call. And so we were right where we want to be. Obviously, I'd like to be more like 92 to 95%, but from 32 to 88, I'm very pleased to look at that number. The other aspect, on the next slide, please. What you'll see here, so January, February, and March, when we actually update these emails and phone call logs, what we're also going to see, which is nice, is we're not going to see as many emails, we're not going to see as many phone calls, because we've cleaned up the process so we don't have as many callbacks of where's our status. So when I looked at our April and now into our May numbers, I've seen our activity stay the same, which is excellent. So the consents and the approval processes are the same, but the level of questions and callbacks have lowered. Next slide, please. And that actually the call metric says the same thing. So you see it goes down to 320, and that was simply by understanding the confusion of that COLA report for the insurance and removing the asbestos report. And you can see that knocked down about 200 phone calls just because by cleaning up the process. So the idea here is we've made some great steps forward. We're clearly not stopping. We're going to be working on resales, and then we will come back and revisit it and continue to fine-tune the process to get it expedited as quickly as possible. And what I am finding out with all of divisions, whether it's the city approval department or our residents or with resales, communication is clearly the number one process, taking the time to pick up the phone and talk to everyone so we can understand the process so we can get resolution. With that, I will hand it back over to Bart. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are available to answer any questions that you may have.
Thanks, Bart and Mike. Any questions from board members? SK?
Yes. Can you go back to chart number maybe 7, please, Michaela? 7? Yes. Email average down May 3rd, 3 emails from 686 email in January. Good job.
Thank you.
Telephone average 88% in 2023, and 2022 is 32% in average. Good job. Thank you. What change is made?
Communication. Our best asset is our staff and our people. And as Bart had mentioned, everybody in my division has been there for over a year. And with Bart's directive and myself, now we're just reiterating the importance of customer service and keeping it top of mind and focusing. And I know it just seems like 2 bullet points of paperwork, but simplifying that process to be able to let the contractors, because what I always say is if my contractor or my residents are in my office, they're not getting their job done.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, did you change the staff or additional changes?
No. The
changes?
staff, we all stayed the same.
Same staff,
Same
yet
staff,
down
just-
from that to that? 22 to 23? Thank you. That indicate me something. Thank you very much.
We just changed the focus of priorities.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments for Bart or Mike? Great progress. We appreciate it.
Thanks, folks.
Keep it coming. Thanks so much. Moving on to agenda item 10, which is the CEO report. Siobhan, good morning.
Thank you, President Laws. Honorable members of the board, it is my honor to provide today's update. As you know, for the past few presentations, I've talked about the way residents may help us control costs and ways VMS staff is trying to control costs. This morning, I want to follow up on this topic and highlight what VMS employees are doing to control costs. Next slide, please. One cost savings measure I highlighted previously pertains to members opting out of paper mailings. Again, the Senate bill that took effect this year mandates that each member receive a written request to indicate a preferred method of delivery. Notice arrived earlier this month with the audited financial statement, and we ask that all residents reply to this in one way or another. Next slide. Residents may opt out of receiving hard copy mailings and choose electronic communications by emailing information@vmsinc.org or returning that form that you received with your financial package to the Village Community Center. The mandated November and April mailings cost $7.50 per member. If 12,000 of our members opted out of paper mailings, the annual savings would be $90,000. If only a third of our members opt out of paper mailings, the annual savings would be more than $30,000. Additionally, residents are encouraged to use Dwelling Live, Easy Pay, and other technology tools to save additional costs. For example, registering guests electronically instead of by telephone for guest clearance can save up to $1.60 per call. To this end, VMS is partnering with the PC Club to offer technology classes at the Bob Sellards PC Learning Center on the 3rd floor of the community center. The class that will be held on May 25th at 1 o'clock will cover use of technology tools such as Dwelling Live, the ticket portal, the resident portal, and recreation and special development applications. The June technology class will offer the same curriculum, and that will be held Thursday, June 15th at 1 p.m. To register, you can register on the PC Club website by selecting the class registration to the left in the menu, or at the PC workshop on the community center 3rd floor between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. during weekdays. I also want to highlight what VMS employees are doing to reduce costs. Depicted on the screen before you are 2 new buses for the transportation program. These 2 8-passenger ADA low-floor buses have been entered into service. The buses cost an estimated $35,000 less than the 18 to 22-passenger buses used on some routes in the community. The buses offer increased fuel efficiency, 19 miles per gallon city, as compared to 10 miles per gallon for the larger buses. And this will generate $6,000 to $7,000 in annual fuel savings, or $42,000 to $49,000 for each bus over the 7-year life of those vehicles. The new irrigation system, master control system, is a GRF project, and this is another example of cost savings. The new weather track control system uses cloud-based software, providing our users with remote access to manage the controllers. So if something goes awry, we'll get a notification and can immediately turn down that controller and stop the water flow. These controllers also get daily weather forecasts and can automatically adjust run times based on that weather forecast. But what I wanted to emphasize this morning is not only does this new system save an estimated 74 million gallons of water throughout the village per year, equating to about $280,000 in water savings based on our current rates. This new system is also eligible for Metropolitan Water District rebates equal to $35 per station. And with more than 10,000 stations in the system, GRF will receive more than $350,000 in rebates when the project is completed. That's a staggering amount. This is the largest system upgrade in the MWD service area, which handles most of Southern California. I also have a few key announcements that I wanted to share this morning. The first is that there is a new way to expedite guest entry at Gate 12. By using the Dwelling Live program, you can secure gate passes for your visitors now. And on the screen before you is a screenshot of how you can make this happen. You simply select the type of pass in the drop-down menu. Circled in red, if you can see it, is Gate 12. So this is how you would identify your guest for visiting Gate 12. And you can also forward the passes to your guests via email or text message like you would for any other entry into the community. So we're very excited that this is now in place. And our gate ambassadors will maintain check-in protocols for those who do not use Dwelling Live for the visitor pass. And this includes residents accompanying guests as they pass through the gates. The annual asphalt pavement program is starting. This is the annual program to improve asphalt and concrete on community streets, both mutual facilities and GRF facilities. The first phase includes the repair and replacement of damaged concrete directly adjacent to the asphalt areas to be paved. The second phase includes asphalt grinding, paving, and restriping work. The first phase of this program will begin mid-May, which is now, and be completed in June. The locations on the screen before you are the third locations included in the project. This includes cul-de-sacs 338, 325, 375, 321, and 224, as well as the east loop of Cali Sonora Oeste, and between several buildings as listed on your screen. All American Asphalt is the contractor for the project, and they will distribute and post notifications 2 weeks in advance of work starting in a particular area, and post no parking signs 48 hours in advance of work starting. And the last announcement concerns the Fall Prevention Initiative, which is a partnership between the Foundation of Laguna Woods Village and Memorial Care Saddleback Medical Center. They are partnering to provide free fall prevention classes. In our village, falls are particularly commonplace and the biggest reason for paramedic calls. These classes will be led by medical center staff and will focus on different aspects of fall prevention, incorporating chair exercises, stretches, strengthening, and so forth to improve strength and stability. The program is offered as 1-month segments in July, August, and September. There are 3 one-hour sessions each month on Wednesdays from 2:30 to 3:30 in Clubhouse 2. Registration is via ActiveNet or at Clubhouse 2 or at the Recreation Office. And these classes do fill up quickly, so we encourage early registration. And that concludes my update this morning. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you for Siobhan. Are there any questions or comments from members of the board regarding Siobhan's presentation? Okay. Seeing none, again, thank you, and we'll move on to agenda item 11, which is the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are recommended for action by committees and will be enacted by the board by one motion. Today, per the consent calendar, the board is being asked to ratify the preliminary financials for the month of March 2023, approve several landscape committee decisions, approve an architectural control and standards committee decision or variance request, approve a request for a non-standard reimbursement, and approve our updated executive hearings committee charter. Can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar? Jim moves. SK seconds. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments regarding the consent calendar that anybody has? Okay. Kaylee, any questions, comments? Okay. All right. Okay. Any objections to approving the consent calendar? Okay. Seeing none, we'll consider the consent calendar approved by consent. Thank you, board. We're up to agenda item 12, unfinished business. Agenda item 12A is for the board to entertain a motion to approve revised architectural standard number 41 for standard panel installations to one-story buildings. These updates were suggested by the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee. Last month, this board voted to approve these changes for 28-day member review and comment. So today we'll be voting as to whether or not to approve these for implementation. First, I'd like Chris to read the resolution for us, please.
Okay. Solar panels, one-story buildings. Whereas the Board of Directors of the 3rd Laguna Hills Mutual Board recognizes the need to amend standards and create new standards as necessary, and whereas the board recognizes the need to revise Standard 41, solar panels, one-story buildings, now therefore be it resolved May 16th, 2023, that the board hereby adopts Standard 41 solar panels, one-story buildings as attached to the official meeting minutes, and resolve further that Resolution 03-19-95, adopted September 17th, 2019, is hereby superseded in its entirety and no longer in effect, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution as written.
Great, thanks, Chris. Can I get a motion to approve the revised standard? Jim moves. Ira seconds. Thank you both. Are there any questions, comments from the board members regarding this before we vote for it? Okay, seeing none. Michaela, just asking, any member comments on this one? All right. I'll try to remember to ask that every time, so that, okay. I guess now it's time to vote. So I believe it's going to come up electronically for us directors, and Donna will have to chat hers in, or they'll ask her. Okay, thumbs up, thumbs down, okay?
Thank you. So it looks like it was approved.
Yeah, so Donna, I'm waiting for her vote. Did you get hers?
Yes, there we go.
Oh, okay, so you say you got Donna's and she voted affirmatively?
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, thanks. So this passed 10-4, 0 against, 0 abstentions. Thank you, board, for moving that along and helping our members who live in one-story buildings. Moving on to agenda item 12B. This is for the board to entertain a motion to approve the mailbox replacement for buildings 3434 through 3438, which is on Bahia Blanca West. In summary, there is a request from most of the members of these buildings to replace their in-wall mailboxes with a new pedestal mailboxes, This subject was discussed at our February board meeting. It was kicked back to the Maintenance and Construction Committee for further details. Earlier this month, the Maintenance and Construction Committee voted to approve the installation of the pedestal mailboxes for these buildings only, so this decision before us now is for the full board to review and make that final decision. So does anybody from staff have any opening comments for us regarding this before we get a little further on? Nope, okay. Anybody have any questions, comments? I thought I saw a hand.
Only after this is voted on.
Oh, okay, only after this is voted on, okay. Any questions, comments from anybody? Any member comments? All right. So, I guess just one of the things the report says, this is a more expensive option by implementing the pedestals than implementing the in-wall mailboxes. So I'm just going to share that I'm planning on voting no, and I'm going to kind of share why. Not all impacted owners signed the motion. It's more expensive, and while I understand that these pedestal mailboxes are an improvement to the in-wall mailboxes, I think installing them should be a kind of a mutual wide decision and policy that we investigate these and proceed that way. It's unclear to me that all those who did sign the petition understand the impact, that they're now not going to be able to get their mail as close to their home. They're going to have to walk out a little bit further. Hopefully they do understand that, but I'm not sure. This decision was approved at the M&C committee as a pilot to get firm control of costs. I'm not sure that implementing a pilot is a way of necessarily getting firm control of costs. I think we should be able to ask better questions of staff to get more accurate costs if there was concern about that. I also asked members the members who lived in these buildings, if they were willing to pay the difference. I think it was about $46 or so difference if that's what it would take to get these pedestal mailboxes in. So those are my comments. So any others before we vote? All right. Okay. I guess it's time to vote.
We do need a motion.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
I move we
Okay,
approve.
my mistake. Got excited.
I move we approve.
Okay. And Ira seconds? Okay, so the motion is to approve the installation of mailboxes for these buildings. Thanks. All right. Okay, it should be up in front of you to vote. We're missing somebody.
Yeah, I believe SK's is the vote we're missing.
Okay, SK still voting. Thumbs up, thumbs down, SK if it's not working. Okay, all right. So it looks like this will pass. Six yeses, 3 noes, and 1 abstention. So thank you, board.
Thank you very much on behalf of my street.
Okay, thank you.
And Mark, if I might make one comment?
Yes, sir.
What we hope to find is that the actual cost of installing these will be less overall once we finally get to this project. Again, pilot project. If we can't lower the cost from what was anticipated, then possibly it won't go forward with the rest of the community, just so you know that.
Okay, good. And Jules, you had a comment you said?
Several years ago, former board member James Tung instituted a practice that we followed for a while, which was every few hours to simply get up and stretch, particularly because sitting long periods of time, such as like this, actually does more damage to the body than the good that would be done by substantial exercise. So I'm just recommending that we take a minute and everybody stand up and do a couple of deep knee bends or something else to get our blood going.
Okay, anybody have any opposition to that? Okay, so you got a minute. You got 1 minute. We're going to stand up stretch for 1 minute. Yeah. Thank you, Jules. I think I can stand up and check it out. I'm expecting to see him do jumping jacks over there.
I was very happy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You have no idea.
I'm not.
Well, the only thing I can say in all honesty is we're one of the few that our mailboxes are very visible. And I'll give you a good example of what happened about a month ago. I have property out of state. I get documents from Portland all the time. They always wind up in absence.
Right, but the mailbox that you have is very set. Others are same, exactly same.
Well, maybe so. I can only see it's not. Right. I came along that day, the wind was blowing, my mail was all over.
Anyway.
So that is our, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, it is.
So I'll give you a call if you can give me.
If I don't answer, just wait.
No, here.
Yeah. But mine is my phone number is 949 949 412 4110.
4110.
My email is R.
No, I don't need that.
Okay.
Mr. Stace.
Yeah, STACE.
STACE. Okay, I'll
Thank you.
give you a call. Yeah.
I appreciate it.
I want to visit your place first.
Okay, that's fine. We are trying to ask them a question.
Well, it's best if you guys can watch, I'll take a
They're different on the third floor than the second and first sides. Yeah. But it needs to be commercial grade because the
Okay, all right, hopefully we can get started here in about 10 seconds. Yeah. All right. All right, we're going to move on to agenda item 13, which is new business. We'll start with agenda item 13A, which is for the board to entertain a motion to approve the 2023 Inspector of Elections. In October of this year, the terms of 4 third board directors will be ending, and I'm hoping that we'll have plenty of volunteer candidates interested in joining the third board. And in support of the anticipated election, we need to identify an independent third party called an Inspector of Elections to help manage the election for us, with tasks including printing ballots, mailing them, receiving and storing them during the election time frame, and then counting them and storing them, or helping us store them. Unelect, which has been the Inspector of Elections for Third Mutual since 2019, has been doing a good job for us, and they were the only vendor to respond to our RFP. So Chris, can you please read the resolution for us?
Yes, approve Inspector of Election Services. Whereas Civil Code Section 5110 requires an association to select an independent third party or parties as an inspector of elections, and whereas in accordance with Civil Code Section 5110, Section 5115, Section 5120, and Section 5125, the Inspector of Elections performs several tasks during an election, including but not limited to print and mail voter packages, inspect and tabulate ballots, and certify results. Now therefore be it resolved, May 16, 2023, that the Board of Directors of Third Laguna Hills Mutual hereby approves awarding a contract to Unelect Corporation to perform inspectors of election services for the 2023 annual election of directors, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are directed on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution.
Great, thank you. Can I now get a motion to approve the 2023 Inspector of Elections before we discuss it? Jules so moves. Jim seconds. That's great, thanks. Any questions, comments from board members? Okay, I can't see Donna with this up, so I'm assuming you'll let me know if she does. Okay, any member comments? Kayla, anybody in the audience? Or okay, great. Then it's time to vote. I think I got the motion this time, yes? Okay. So nothing has popped up on my screen yet to vote. Thank you. Thumbs up, thumbs down, SK? Well, we're okay. All right. So this is a unanimous decision. Thank you, board. And I'm now going to move on to agenda item 13B. So it was a vote of unanimous decision, 10 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstentions. Thanks for clarification. Agenda item 13B is for the board to entertain a motion to approve revised architectural standard number 4 for air conditioning units and heat pumps. These updates were suggested by the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee, and today we will be voting as to whether or not to submit this revised standard forward for 28-day member review and approval and comment. Excuse me. Does anyone from staff have any opening comments for us regarding this?
Good morning again, everyone. With 13B, the original standard for air conditioning units was to have the condensing unit either placed on the ground level or on the roof. And so for this particular unit, for a 30-story unit, we have proposed a standard of allowing the new mini splits, as you guys might be familiar with, which is the mini split that's going to be ceiling height mounted in multiple rooms within the residence, and allowing the condensing unit, instead of being ground mounted or roof mounted, and as you guys have probably seen on the side of the buildings, you'd see 2 or 3 different lines spider webbing up or spider webbing down. With the new wall mounted mini split condensing unit, it could be mounted outside the second story on the wall where the former sleeves used to be, so the old school. The nice part about this is that the new standard of all of our appliances is what I kind of call the quiet standard. Those previously condenser units usually ran about 71 to 86 decibels. The new one that becomes wall mounted on the second floor, the particular unit that we're proposing is going to be less than 49 decibels. It averages 39. A resident can actually buy the Mercedes-Benz version of that, which would be a Danco, and which is all the way down to 19 decibels. It's literally in whisper mode. And the purpose of that would be allow the old sleeve unit that is actually an all-in-one encompassing unit that has the heating and air conditioning be removed, put back to our architectural standard, being framed in, stuccoed correctly, and then having a much smaller mini split, because it's about 30 inches by 2 feet, wall mounted. And as I said, it's going to run about 39 decibels, less than 48.
Okay, great, thanks. And before I have Michael sit down, anybody have any questions for him? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve this revised standard? Jim still moves, Ira seconds. Thank you both. Any questions from the board regarding it? Okay. Ira, yes. Question or comment?
The only comment I'd like to make is just to reiterate what Mike said. These are going to be significantly quieter and will provide a better look for the side of the building. You don't have to run chase work up and down and up and down. And so it's just going to be a general improvement. No negatives whatsoever.
Okay. And I'm assuming it also frees up potential ground space and ceiling space. There, the roof space. Good. All right. Thanks. Okay. Any member comments? Great. Seeing no comments and hearing no further comments, it's time to vote. We're going to be voting to submit this updated standard forward for 28-day member review and comment. All right, and this also passed unanimously, 10 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstentions. Thank you, board. And members, take a look and share your comments with us. Agenda item 13C is for the board to entertain a motion to approve a legal fee for the recordable exclusive use of common area revocable license agreements for variances on common areas outside of a manor. These updates were suggested by the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee, and today we will be voting as to whether or not to submit this revised fee, or not a revised fee, this new fee forward for 28-day member review and comment. Anyone from staff have any opening questions or comments for us? Excuse me?
No comments or questions. Vice President Cook went over some of the details of what this entails and what it covers. So just as important as to what it covers is what it doesn't cover. And I just wanted to make a point that this only applies to the more complex variances outside of the footprint of the building that it does not cover. And I think Vice President Cook also mentioned this, that this fee will not apply to variances within the footprint of the building or exclusive use common areas. We will continue to use the same process and fee that we are currently using. So for solar installations, for an alteration regarding windows or remodeling the interior of a unit, if it involves common area or exclusive use common area, we will continue to use the same fee, the same process as we have been doing before. And I am available to answer any questions that you may have.
So as I was just going to clarify, it was also referred to as a boilerplate in an earlier member comment, and that is truly not the case.
That is not the case.
This is
These will be prepared individually for each situation, for each case. Again, these are the more complex variances.
Okay, thank you. Jim, you had a question?
Just, and to add to a little bit more, the cocoon of the residence where you're going to get rid of a soffit or increase the height of the ceiling or put your compressor unit in your attic, all of those are still under the old process, not under this new process. That's also going to be continued as was. This is only specific to areas where you're going outside the footprint, going into actual common area, not exclusive common area that's been defined in the past.
Correct.
Okay, great, thanks. All right. Thank you, Bart. Can I get a motion to approve this new legal fee? Jim so moves. Looking just for somebody other than Ira. Jim Ira is just, hey, Andy, I thought I saw your hand kind of getting ready to go up. So thanks, Andy. And thanks, Ira. Any questions? Further questions from the board to discuss?
Comment.
Oh, comment?
Again, this is a pass-through fee. None of this fee comes to the HOA. It goes directly to the attorney. It's been set at a medium amount because some will actually cost them more time and effort. Some will be less time and effort. This is just an average of what they expect to be able to charge so that it's a routine type charge and not a custom charge. So that is also how that came about.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, any member comments on this one other than Ms. Smallwood earlier? Okay. Then it's now time to vote. I did get a motion, and now I'm confused. You caught me on one of them, and so too many things going on. All right. All right, voting is complete, and this passes with a positive vote of eight yeses, 1 no, and 1 abstention. Thank you, board. And the final new business agenda item is 13D, and that's for the board to entertain a motion to approve an update to Third's appeal policy. These updates were suggested by the Resident Policy and Compliance Committee, and were suggested to allow anyone who disagrees with a decision of less than a full board to appeal that decision to the full board for reconsideration. The current process allows for staff to, in many cases, determine whether or not an appeal should be heard, and we're working to make this simpler and more effective for our members and remove staff from that decision. Today, we're going to be voting as to whether or not to submit this updated appeal policy forward for 28-day member review and comment. Can I get a motion to approve the updated appeal policy? Before we discuss it, Ira moves, SK seconds. Okay, hopefully everybody's read it. It's one pager. We've made it about as simple as can be. Anybody have any questions or comments on it? Okay, I don't see any from board members. Any from any members? Okay. Then we'll now vote on this. Okay, so the results are in. All right, 8 yes votes, 2 no votes, and 0 abstentions. So this passes so again, we are now submitting this forward for 28-member review and comment. So it will come up for us again next month. And we can take our member comments into consideration then. Thank you, Board. That concludes new business. Now we're moving on to agenda item 14, where members of this board will share our monthly committee status updates, starting with the report of the Finance Committee. Donna, I haven't heard you yet, I don't think. Hey, great, I can hear you.
You all can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Okay.
Lovely background you have there.
Yes, it is actually a very pretty part of Utah. So if we can have the first slide and begin. We always begin just with that 30,000 foot view where we look at all of our revenue, with assessment and non-assessment added together without consideration of which category, all of our expenses for the reporting period, and ultimately the net. And as you can see, our total revenue was $11 million through the reporting period of March 31st, against expenses of $8.6 million, with a net revenue of $2.4 million. But let's look a little further and go on to the next slide, where we look and focus on the operating income statement. And that's really important. We always have to keep a close watch on this particular statement, because the operating income and the operating budget is what we actually anticipate having expenses for. So we really want to see where we are in relationship to that. And I just had something pop up on the screen. And so you can see that on this one, we look at what portion of that $11 million assessment revenue goes to operating, and that's a little over $7 million, with about $500,000 from the non-assessment revenue going there. For total revenue applied to the operating budget of $7.7 million against expenses of $6.8 million through the month of March, through operating March 31st, $852,000 of surplus. And let's move on, because that surplus is sometimes a little deceiving. So let's go on to slide number 3. We look at this is again back to an overview, but we're looking at our assessment revenue compared to budget. This is the first time we've looked at budget overall. And you can see that, not surprisingly, our assessment revenue was exactly equal to the budget, because those are the monthly assessments that people are paying. Our non-assessment revenue was actually slightly more than what was budgeted, and our expenses were somewhat less than what was budgeted. So in overall. And so in that respect, we wind up with a variance, a positive one, of $1.7 million that is favorable to the budget. Let's move on to slide number 4. And those who've watched before know this is my favorite one, when there's lots of green on it. Green meaning where we have significant variance that's positive, red being variance that's negative. And you can see that outside services had a very significant variance of almost $1 million. And so the question is, what caused that? Some of that had to do with not yet processing some of the invoices. And so we always have to keep that in mind. This is early in the year. And outside services in particular, we have not necessarily received invoices or been able to process them yet. Work is going on, waistline remediation, copper pipe remediation, maintenance are all in process and awaiting that invoice processing. When it comes to roof replacements, those had a late start because of all the rain we had early in the year. So they started in April, and we anticipate them running several months. And fumigation also had a late start, which began in April and is expected to be completed by October. So that's why we see some big variance there again. Some of the work not yet done, and certainly invoices not yet processed. As we move to employee compensation, this was favorable, although again, not always favorable to us, because it's primarily due to open positions in essentially M&C and landscaping having the biggest open positions. Grounds maintenance, damage restoration, carpentry, paint, and plumbing were the areas most affected by the open positions. Our utilities were favorable, and this is a wonderful thing to see, because part of that, and big part of it, is water and sewer. The sewer charges were decreased by El Toro Water District just recently, and so we will be continuing to see favorable numbers there. In terms of water use, Mother Nature, in her abundance of rain, helped us not have to water landscaping quite as much. And I'm very pleased to report that for 21 months in a row, residential water use has been lower than the previous year, the same month. So thank you to everybody for doing that, and to Mother Nature. I think we had an awful lot of moisture intrusion because of it, but at least in terms of our water bill, it was helpful. And as we look at the one unfavorable was $43,000, and that had to do with fewer units selling, primarily because fewer units have gone on the market, and fewer leases being processed than we had anticipated. So it is a very small negative variance, but it is something that didn't occur that we had hoped would. So let's move on to the next slide. And this is such a wonderful picture for us to see where our non-assessment revenues come from. And you can see that chargeable services, 37% of our non-assessment revenues, and this is really wonderful, are people who work for VMS, who do the chargeable services. The prices are very reasonable. It keeps everybody fully employed and busy, and it really, as you can see, has a significant effect on our non-assessment revenues. The other was in the area of investment interest income. We have our reserve funds invested in federal T-bills, and as I hope you all know, safety is always primary, although we always hope for good return on investment. With the rising interest rates, that has been quite beneficial. And so that is a big portion. That's 2/3 of our non-assessment revenue. The other, in smaller degrees, being laundry, lease processing, resale processing, et cetera, going around that chart. And as we move on to the next slide, we're going to see where our expenses come from. And not surprisingly, employee compensation and related account for 37% of our total expenses, with insurance taking a very large bite out of our expenses as well, and that's 25%. Everything else to a lesser degree, utilities, outside services, materials, supplies, et cetera, moving on around the chart. We have heard that our union contract will be coming up again in November. They're working and trying to work with the union, and that's something that we will ultimately find out how that goes. Insurance has been a consideration for a long time, and insurance companies have been raising their rates across the board. So that we will have to see as time goes on. And let's move on to slide number 7. Which are the non-operating fund. We focused on operating funds. Let's look at non-operating fund. First, replacement funds. That's really our reserves. That's things that are going to come up, and they will come out of the reserves that we intend to have available for that. On a much smaller scale, the Garden Villa Fund, and our members do need to know that that fund is contributed to by people in the Garden Villas. That's not an overall assessment. The Disaster Fund, unappropriate expenditures, which is our contingency fund. That's for the just in case, because we know there will be some expenses somewhere and can't always identify where that's going to happen in advance. And if you look, you can see, I love looking down the charts, and you can see that our beginning balances and our current balances are greater in every area, with the exception of the disaster fund. They had an expense. Radios had to be replaced and some other things, but a very small expense. And so everything else is looking very good, and we seem to be planning appropriately to have those funds all grow. On the very next chart, you actually see in bar chart form on the next slide, over the years from 2019 to 2023, how those funds have stood. And fortunately, and that's what we want, we see the replacement funds growing. That fund has been increasing, and it needs to. Our community facilities and structures are aging, and we have to be prepared for repairs and improvements as we move on. The disaster fund shrunk a bit, and I've mentioned previously, part of that was because it had to be bigger when we didn't have earthquake insurance. We do have it now. And now it seems to be at a very good level and will probably hold right around there. And the unappropriated expenditures, again, holding pretty steady. Our contingency fund seems to be about the same and seems to be doing as it should, holding those unexpected expenses. The Garden Villa fund is that very tiny little bar across the top, and that, as we saw, was also doing better. So with that, we'll move on to our very last slide, which shows our resale history. We, as I mentioned earlier, we've had fewer sales, fewer homes on the market or units, manors on the market this year. And you can see how much smaller January, February, and March have been in this year compared to previous years. Some of that and much of that has to do with the rising interest rates, and we will just have to watch that and see how it progresses. In terms of the average resale price, you notice that in 2021, we were looking at about $428,000, slightly higher in 2022, and again, slightly higher in 23, but always keep in mind we have some units, a few very, very expensive manors, and when some of those are figured into the calculation, when some of those sales occur during the reported period, we will see a jump that probably hasn't changed our average sales price very much. And with that, that concludes the Finance Committee's report. We did not meet we meet every other month, and I want to remind folks, we meet every other month starting in February. So February, April, June, and our meeting is always the first Tuesday of the month in the afternoon at 1:30 in the boardroom, and we invite our members to attend. And thank you.
Great, thank you, Donna. Looking around, see if there's any questions. All right. Next, we'll have an update regarding the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee. Jim?
The ACSC met on May 8th, and Bart Mejia and Mike Horton stole some of my thunder, as I often steal some of theirs. But in addition to what they said, what I want to say about communication is that it is to our advantage having Michael Horton, who is a contractor that speaks the same language as other contractors, and that cuts through a lot of the communication barrier that we have. And that's what sped so many of these things up, with a contractor looking at it from a contractor's perspective in working with the city and working with what our mutual consent comprises. As far as things that went on, we had the architectural standard, solar panels, one-story buildings. Those have been passed on here to the board. Reenactment of architectural standard 41A, and that's the two-story buildings and three-story buildings. And then revision to architectural standard 31, washers and dryers. Along with that, I made a presentation to the Garden Villa Association's meeting to try and displace some of the rumors, some of the misconceptions about allowing washers and dryers in three-story buildings. I think it was pretty successful in that meeting and went along very well. Along with the things that were already mentioned by Bart and Mike, we have things moving forward. We already talked about the updated resale inspection fees, the updated alteration fees, contractor violation policy. All these things are in the works. Change contractor work hours, Monday through Saturday, 8 to 5. Only holidays would be Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day, and New Year's Day. This is a process that has to be worked out, trying to get United on the same page as us, trying to get the city on the same page as us, so that there aren't more and more delays in construction going on in the community when they're having not to work holidays that most people in the real world don't have off to begin with. We're trying to revise the mutual consent packet to be more user-friendly. Part of that was the insurance requirements, simplifying that. There were so many conflicts in it prior. Now there's 8 specific items that have to be on it. It can come from any of the insurance companies as long as they include those 8 items, and it's a done deal. So many times the mutual consent kept being rejected because one of those criteria of those insurance requirements wasn't being met, and so it gets rejected, back, forth, back and forth, back and forth. Now it's so clear that that shouldn't be happening. Again, they're working with the city of Laguna Woods to streamline all aspects. Let's see, what else do we have? We have solar panels, the air conditioning units, which we just went to and approved on the 28th date, was for wall mounting in the multi-story buildings. So it takes away all that spider web of condensation lines and lines going to the compressor from there to the units. And again, it's much, much quieter than our existing antiquated through-wall heating and air conditioning units with the sleeve. That's about it. Our next meeting is June 15th, I think. Let me look.
Sorry, I don't have it with me.
The next meeting is
June 12th.
No.
No?
Yes, June 12th. And that concludes mine.
Okay, thanks, Jim.
Any questions from anybody?
Yes,
You got Gasket?
yeah, Jim, is the new air conditioning unit, is information available?
As far as
Information of the new air conditioner unit.
what it is, it's the compressor for like split units. And so
Yeah.
information's available online, but
Online, okay.
Yeah.
Well, we needed that kind of information so that we can access to what those air conditioner is. No?
Thinking of, there's a couple different brands.
Yeah, those information should be publicly available, right? No?
When you say publicly, I think he's saying it's available on the web. Are you asking that the board make it available to members more readily than that?
This is the unit that we study on, that kind of information, no?
well, we can't recommend specific
I know.
types of units.
Yeah, I know.
We can only set specifications for what the decibel rating is and what the size is. But basically, the wall mount units for these splits are almost all about the same.
But with that information, I cannot find out what kind of unit you are talking about.
I have
Yeah.
if you, after the meeting, if we.
Yeah,
or
okay.
in between, walk over to alterations and you can see what some of the units that.
Oh, okay.
Dr. Mike Horton, he should have a couple of samples. But as Jim said, we can't recommend any particular.
No, I'm not expecting that.
But they did look at a few different units.
Oh, okay, okay, good, thank you.
Yeah, and the specifications are in your agenda packet.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Andy?
Jim, I was wondering the magnitude of the issue. Roughly how many units in third have wall air conditioners? You got a feel for that?
Originally, all of them were the through wall.
Well, my condo doesn't have what I'm just saying, I know the multi-story, or we have an idea how many units is 4,000 or? How many units?
I don't-
How big is the problem?
Well, no, it's not a problem. I think this is a additional option that we are making available to our members versus only roof-mounted or only ground-mounted. This is now a third option that we're making available as a result of today's approved standard.
So a member could go with the old option. It's their choice.
Sure.
The
Oh, yeah, they can
noisier-
still put in
Yes.
the through wall
Yes.
units.
The quieter, better-looking unit, is it about the same price as a replacement of the old style? Or is there a big difference in price?
I don't know. I only know what the new units cost, not what the old style units cost.
No, I would think. Yeah.
I'm assuming that it would be quite a bit more expense.
Okay.
And
so-
the installation is obviously going to cause more expense because you put in the split units. An average cost for say a 3 split unit, and that compressor is around $5,000, or was a year ago.
Okay.
And about $5,000 to install it. if you're doing an install with a remodel. Obviously, it's going to be more if you're doing the install and you're cutting out all the drywall and doing it just to add that one type of thing. Whereas the through wall, all you're doing is taking the one out of the sleeve, putting another one in,
Yep.
and possibly having to rearrange the sleeve because the newer ones aren't the same size as the older ones. They're
Okay.
much more efficient in a smaller unit, but they're still quite a bit higher decibels than the compressor for a split unit.
Yeah, for a while, I lived in a rental unit over in United, and it had a old-style window unit, or wall unit, really noisy, I hated it. But in terms of like adoption of this thing, which is the better mousetrap, it's the way to go for a lot of reasons, although it costs more. It's going to be a while before quite a few of these are in the village. It's going to take a while unless there's some way to get people to accept paying more for the quieter unit. Yeah, I'm just trying to get a handle on it. It'll be a while.
Well, nobody is being designated to have to
Yeah, they don't
replace
have
it
to.
with this type of unit. They can still replace it with the existing type unit. This is only for people that are doing remodels that want to improve their units' air conditioning and heating. So it's only going to be on a case by case. I mean, it could be 100 years before
Right, that's
50% of the village decides to change out their air conditioners.
All I can say is that, to me personally, those wall units are so noisy, really bad. That's one reason I would never move into a unit that had one of those. But that's me. Anyway, it's going to take a while. Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
thanks. First Jules and then Ira.
The in-wall units are, obviously, the mini splits are a lot more expensive because it involves ductwork and it's a much more efficient and it's a much quieter unit. Whereas the insert is that you pull the old one out and you stick the new one in, and they are extremely inefficient. You're not talking just about maybe $800 or $1,000 at the most for each individual unit, which you just slide in. If you put in 3 mini split units, it's going to cost you 10 or 15 grand.
Well, I'm wondering
Get
if,
a lot better.
is there a government rebate or something, some incentive from the government? Anybody know of an incentive to do this? If it's more efficient, I mean,
2 years ago, there was a rebate, but I don't know
not
if there is
anymore.
one now.
Okay. It's something we got to work on.
Okay, and Ira.
But just, this makes it less costly to put a mini split in because you don't have to run all that chase work from either the ground level or the roof level to, let's say, a second floor unit in a 3-story building. And the efficiency level of, the old heat pump that you're talking about versus this is dramatic. Aside from the noise factor being dramatic difference, you do get a little bit of payback with the efficiency because you can shut it off in each room. You can cool one room that you're always in. If you have a guest room, like in some of the 3-story units, there's 3 bedroom. You don't always use a 3rd bedroom. You can shut it off. I mean, there's a lot of benefits to modernizing your AC and heating, and electrical costs for your kilowatt hours are not going to go down moving forward. You can expect energy costs to rise, so this will help you save over the life of the unit, give you more pleasure, quieter, everything else about it.
Jules?
And it's a much smarter unit. So, for example, it can actually read the room to determine whether there's anyone there. And if there's no one there, it'll cut down automatically. So you can keep it on all day.
SK?
Yes. I'm still a little bit confused about your terminology that you're using. Air conditioner, normal general air conditioner is a duct using air conditioner uses. That's air forced heating, heating and air conditioning unit. But when you say the split unit, that unit is the ductless air conditioner. So when you said split unit, are you talking about split unit to modernize so that you can put in the wall and use as a split unit? Or is it outside install compressor, deliver the refrigerant and each refrigerant to each room so that you can use as a split unit? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes,
What?
the compressor is outside. It supplies however many split units in the wall that it's going to, but it's a ductless system.
Yeah.
It's only got the piping and the electricity going to that unit.
Right. In that case, the unit that you're talking about is ductless split unit. It's not the wall you can replace unit.
No. What it's all about is the compressor for those split units is going in the space where that through wall unit used to set and stick out the wall.
No, I don't think you can do that.
Yeah.
You
That's
can?
the whole idea.
How big is it?
Small.
It's smaller than the size of the existing through wall unit.
Yeah, that's a refrigerant pipe. I know that. So you are saying you can take out existing heat pump, replace with a split unit, place into the current wall unit, and use as a split unit? Is that what you're saying?
No, only the compressor goes there. The compressor for the split unit, or the heat pump, or whatever you're calling it, goes in that space. And then it runs out to the in-wall.
I think this is technical term. I'm very familiar with the air conditioner unit. I do have certificate myself. So let's discuss after meeting.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thanks. Let's continue our discussion later. Good discussion, though, Ralph. What's happening with the third Maintenance and Construction Committee?
Well, our last meeting was May 1st, and I think I should get some kind of a public recognition for holding the longest M&C committee meeting on record. I think we were through about 5:30 in the evening. At any rate, we talked about a lot of stuff, including some items that are either completed now or significantly in progress, and some of which will impact consideration of the 2024 budget. One of those is the washers and dryers in the three-story buildings. And I think staff has been told to go ahead and use the current budget as far as possible this year.
You're talking about the common washers and dryers, right? In the common washers, not in the units.
Sorry, okay.
Just wanted to confuse anybody.
The common washers and dryers in the washroom of the laundry facility in the third-story buildings. So you should be seeing some changes in those. The new equipment is made in the United States, so that will enable us to get not only equipment faster, not waiting on a supply line, but it will also mean spare parts will be easier to get. Hopefully, we won't need them as much. So that we should see they're more expensive, but hopefully they'll save us a lot in servicing. The groundwater problem inside Gate 11 was discussed briefly. The design is completed. We expect to see some soil turned later, the end of the summer maybe. Mailbox replacement we talked about earlier. We went through that. Some other discussion which we talked about, which will hit our 2024 budget, is perimeter fencing. In other words, Shepherd's Crook or other alternatives or nothing. Staff has been requested to prepare a proposal for the replacement of Garden Villa rec room windows for the 2024 budget consideration. Staff will also requested to consider a specific program to install rubber sound insulation feet under existing washers and dryers. The I had a little problem with the pressure regulator valves. An RFP went out. We got no responses on it. They're going to try to refine that a little bit, and one of our third members, as well as an M&C committee member, offered to help do some of the preliminary investigation in order to narrow that RFP down. We actually got no responses on that. In the original RFP, probably because the plumbers that would be interested in doing that were not guaranteed of actually getting any work beyond looking and measuring some pressures. Some other items which will be coming up, but we didn't really go into it, we just mentioned briefly, and that's individual manner potable water isolation valves. So you can shut off your own valve in your own house. I have that, and I'm in a duplex right now, and I do have a separate valve that shuts my system off from the other one. But they're looking into doing that entirely in the three-story levels as well. That'll depend on exactly how the plumbing goes. Also an incentive to repipe manors while they're being remodeled to eliminate possible leaks in the future. An update on water intrusion into the garage areas. That's one that I've personally taken an interest in. We may have to look at other things than just leaks from the breezeway area overhead. There may be other problems we'll have to look at. Consideration of the revised M&C charter is also on deck, but you'll have to wait for more information on that until our next meeting, which is presently scheduled for July 3rd. And we hope we're not going to have any fireworks on display there. Sorry.
Thank you, Ralph. All right, seeing no hands raised, next move to the Landscape Committee. Ira?
We met Thursday, May 4th, here in the boardroom, and basically it was everything was focused around water. We've saved water this spring by not having to use any due to the rain, but the rain caused a lot of issues with regards to weed growth and put off restoration projects for the grub damage that occurred last year that we just couldn't get out. You can't get out and spray on a wet lawn to remove either weeds or grubs. So it was just one delay after the other. So basically, Kurt, head of landscaping, said that every available person was going, and any amount of time that they had, everything was being focused on weed elimination, grub elimination, and turf restoration. So hopefully in the next 4 to 6 weeks, people will not be talking about that any longer. It takes about 4 weeks for seed to germinate, and now that it's dry, you can use herbicides for the weeds and pesticides for the grubs. We also added 11 areas on the ongoing turf removal projects, and basically that was all that we really did. And the date of our next meeting is Thursday, June 1st at 9:30 here in the boardroom.
Great. Thanks, Ira. All right, what's the latest from the Water Conservation Committee, Donna?
Hi, we held our quarterly meeting on April 27th, and our next meeting will be July 27th, since we do leave, and it was a very lively meeting. We had Kurt Weeman report on the new controllers for landscaping, which we're very excited about and should have a lot of water conservation. It's important to remember that GRF paid for that whole system, and so our contributions to GRF went in a very good direction for us. And so I wanted to mention that. I had also reported on the decreased residential water use that I mentioned earlier in the Finance Committee report, and we're very pleased that our residents are working so hard at that, and we need to continue. Just all we don't
Oh, yeah,
And
we're
are
kind of losing you, Donna.
also saving great deal.
Yeah, yes. So I think you're frozen on the screen and your voice was kind of popping in and out. Now we don't hear you at all.
And my connection stable, so I will
All
go
right.
and just having that voice from the ether doesn't make a difference. I'm almost done anyway. So hopefully you can hear better now.
Okay.
And we had a presentation by Kay Havens, who is president of the board of El Toro Water District, who spoke about the state of the water supply in California. And as I mentioned, it is something we are always concerned with and will always have to be conserving. We also had a report from our own advisor to our committee, Lee Goldstein, who was chair of the Earth Day event for Laguna Woods. And they had over a 200% increase in participation. Over 350 people participated, and it was a really, really good day. And next year should be another, and always reminding us of how we can conserve. And with that, I want to invite people to come to these meetings. They're lively. You get to sit at the table because we tend not to have motions requiring votes. And so we'd love to have you. The next meeting, although in the agenda it says the Elm Room, we've moved to the Sycamore Room because it's a little better for Zoom connections, and we want to make sure that as many people as possible can see our meetings. And so, again, as I mentioned, our next meeting is Thursday, July 27th, always the fourth Thursday of the month at 2 p.m. And that's it.
Great. Thank you, Donna. And finally, from a third committee perspective, we have the Resident Policy and Compliance Committee. This committee last met on Tuesday, April 25th, where we discussed the updates to Third's appeal policy that just earlier today we put on 28-day notice, as well as our leasing policy, our compliance letters, and our internal dispute resolution policy. This committee will next meet 1 week from today, on Tuesday, May 23rd at 9:30 a.m. here in the boardroom. We plan to continue our discussion of our leasing policy, into which we're looking to include rentals as required by new state laws, as well as look at our compliance letters and our barbecue policy. And that's all we have for third mutual committees. Now we'll move on to agenda item 15, where we'll share our monthly GRF committee status update, starting with the GRF Finance Committee. And Donna, if it's better to just hear you and not see you, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it off because I hear you breaking up occasionally when I put the video on. The GRF Finance Committee met on April 19th, and our next meeting will be the 21st of June. A great deal of the meeting time was spent with residents, members with their concerns about the potential increase in recreation fees for use of rooms. Clubs were concerned, et cetera. And so that is something that is going to be looked at very closely with a special advisory committee, and we will keep you updated as possible. And that was really the main focus of the meeting. And again, we'll meet again on June 21st at 1:30 in the boardroom.
Thank you. All right, next we have the GRF Community Activities Committee. During the VMS report earlier today, a lot of the upcoming activities were mentioned by Mary Cito. So I'm just going to mention that the GRF CAC last met on Thursday, May 11th at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. The one item on the agenda for discussion and consideration was a proposed donation of a skill saw for the Clubhouse 4 workshop, and this donation was approved by the committee. And the GRF CAC, or Community Activities Committee, will next meet on Thursday, June 8th at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. Next we have the GRF Landscaping Committee. Ira, you have any updates for us?
It was a very quick meeting, but most of the discussion was on water savings because of the rain. Aliso Creek maintenance updates that are ongoing throughout the year, all year, just to let everybody know before any work gets done with cleaning up the creek area, a biologist has to analyze and attend with any workers being, when work is being done, to make sure no wild animal habitats are disturbed certain times of the year. Like right about now, you can't do any work because of nesting birds and so on. So there's a lot of restrictions, but it is an ongoing situation. And then Kurt made a presentation of some electrical equipment that's being tested by one of the crews. It'll mostly be around the clubhouses. They'll be using some electric hand tools, and you should not hear them as much as the old gas-powered or diesel-powered or kerosene-powered, depending on the equipment. So, and the whole village will be theoretically changed over once they do agree on which type of equipment to buy for all the crews. The only thing that will not be changed out from gas is the large driving lawnmowers. They'll actually get a little bit larger motor, so they will not fall into the restricted area. They have to be over 25 horsepower, and they'll be there's a lot of them out there that are 26. So that's the only thing that will still remain gas. This will reduce our needs for parts. There's only really 3 parts in an electric hand tool, you know, the motor, the switch, and maybe a blower. So there really isn't all that much to repair. So the repair department will be shrinking, and it will become a charging department more so than anything else. And there was some movement for the budget for next year to include finishing up and or starting gate re-landscaping. And that was about it. And the next meeting will be on Wednesday, August 9th at 1:30 here in the boardroom.
Great, thank you, Ira. Next, we have the GRF Media and Communication Committee. Jim?
The committee met yesterday, and we by far exceeded Ralph's longest meeting. When you combine the Communications Committee and the Ad Hoc Committee together, we went from 1:30 in the afternoon till 6:15 in the evening. Oh, wow. So anyway, much of the media and communications was covered with the VMS update and also with the CEO update. Just want to remind everyone to get your emails, what's up in the village, go to the website and find out what's happening. We have a third new resident orientation on Friday at 9 a.m. here in the boardroom. Invite people to come. We've only got 6 people signed up so far. And all those different things are entailed in the Media and Communications Committee's work. Our next meeting won't be until July 17th. And that's about it.
Okay, great, thanks. And moving on to Chris here for the GRF Broadband Ad Hoc Committee.
Okay, this closed committee met on April 25th and last evening, as Jim had mentioned. And the next meeting is scheduled for next week, May 23rd.
Okay, yeah, great. And what's the latest regarding the Laguna Woods Village traffic hearings, Jules?
The Traffic Committee conducted their monthly meeting on April 19th. The panel heard 6 matters, all nominal traffic violations. All 6 resulted in findings of guilty. The next meeting takes place right here tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. I point out that the hearings are closed, and that concludes my report.
Great. Thank you, Jim. Jules? Regarding the GRF Compliance Ad Hoc Committee, they last met on Wednesday, May 3rd. The main focus of the discussion was to bring all of the disciplinary-related policies and procedures together under a single grouping for easier access, understanding by everybody. And the date and time of the next meeting of the GRF Compliance Ad Hoc Committee is to be determined. Next, we have an update regarding the GRF Security and Community Access Committee, SK.
Yes, thank you, Mark. GRF Security and Community Access Committee meeting was held on April 26th at 1:30 p.m. in this boardroom. New SCAC Committee Chair Lady Ms. Skillman expressed her condolences for passing of the former chairman of the Don Tibbet. In that meeting, items were discussed. Two top members' comments were RV lot security camera quality for the theft prevention, and the second item is the fading crosswalk painting at some intersections. And the second disaster task force reports were concern of no backup emergency generator at Clubhouse 3 PAC Center, PAC Center, since it holds 800 plus people. The announcements of the disaster task force was a disaster preparedness radio communication drill will be held at 8:30 a.m. tomorrow morning, Monday, May 30th. Chief Officer Mr. Nunes discussed his PowerPoint presentation on Gate 12 security status update, and the second item is a flashing stop sign concerns and benefits. That's all the discussion we made, and then next the DPTF meeting is scheduled on June 6th, 9:30 a.m. here at boardroom. Thank you.
Great, thanks, SK. Oops, Andy?
Just a point of information, SK. On the Security and Access Committee, noteworthy incidents, Officer Nunez described or listed three different crashes into village property. And just for my own personal knowledge, what happens when someone damages property? For example, in one case, there's a 10-foot breach of the wall, so that's got to be repaired. I'm just wondering how that's handled. Who pays for it?
That I'm not familiar. I'm sorry, I don't know about that. We did not fully discuss about that.
Okay, I was just wondering. I'll check on that privately. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks for the question. Oops, Carlos. Oh, yeah.
I can answer that for you. What happens when we do have a traffic collision that damages village property? That report goes to risk management. Dan Yost contacts the insurance company, and that gets settled with the insurance company. So we'll get paid back for any damages by the person's insurance, whether they're a member or somebody outside the community.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great, thanks, Carlos. Sorry, you're so quiet, I didn't notice you there. Now we'll have an update regarding the Information Technology Advisory Committee. This committee, known as ITAC, currently meets monthly and last met Friday, April 28th. This committee currently overseeing the efforts to replace the multitude of our old systems and tools with a single automated tool, commonly referred to as ERP, which doesn't mean a whole lot to anybody, but that's what they call it. And it will be used by staff members and residents to track all their requests and activities, as well as support the day-to-day operations of the village. Currently, the focus is on the financial accounting tools that we use, things that allow us to close the books, try to track all of our money, pay our vendors, receive invoices from vendors, that kind of thing. Effort is still in the design and development phase, where the development team is essentially prototyping functionality based upon this tool that we're using, Dynamics 365. Staff is looking at it, making sure that it works the way we need it to do. If it doesn't, then our consultants tweak it a little bit, and we try again, a kind of an iterative process to make sure that it's working as needed. And the next ITAC is scheduled for Friday, June 2nd, and those tend to be closed meetings. So that's that. And then finally, the following GRF committees have not met since the last third board meeting of April 18th. So there are no updates for these. First is the GRF website ad hoc committee. They last met on April 12th and are scheduled to next meet on Monday, May 22nd at noon. The GRF maintenance and construction committee last met on April 12th and is scheduled to next meet on June 14th at 9:30 a.m. here in the boardroom. The GRF clubhouse facilities renovation ad hoc committee last met on March 6th, and the date and time of its next meeting is to be determined. The Disaster Preparedness Task Force last met on March 28th and is scheduled to next meet on May 30th at 9 a.m. here in the boardroom. The Purchasing Ad Hoc Committee last met on March 22nd, and the date and time of its next meeting is to be determined. And finally, the JRF Mobility and Vehicles Committee last met on March 2nd and is scheduled to next meet on June 7th at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. That concludes our committee reports for today. We're now on to agenda item 16, which
Mark,
is for...
Before we go on.
Yes, sir. I'm
Can
sorry,
we
SK.
make a correction on the May 30th of disaster task force meeting scheduled to June 6th?
Okay. Hey, thank you. Thanks for that. June 6th. So a change. All right. Thank you. That concludes our committee reports. We're now on to agenda item 16, which is for the board to note any items they'd like to be discussed at a future board meeting. So far on our list, we have the 3 items that we put onto 28-day member review and comment today. And those 3 are a revision to Architectural Standard 4 for air conditioning units and heat pumps, a new legal fee for recording exclusive use of common area revocable licenses, and our proposed updates to the third's appeal policy. Are there any more items anybody would like to consider and note for a future monthly open meeting? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to agenda item 17, which is director's comments. Do any directors have any last comments that they'd like to share? I'll start with you, SK.
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Andy, none. Moon, none. Jules? Okay. Ira? Ralph?
I still hold the record for the longest M&C meeting, okay?
Okay. All right.
No comment.
Okay, Chris?
None.
Okay. And I have nothing. Staff, any final comments? All right. Great. It is now 12:01 according to the clock on the wall, and that concludes our business of our open meeting. And this time we will go into recess for 29 minutes, but we will start at 12:30 sharp with our executive session. So again, as always, thanks to all of those of you who participated, and thanks to everybody for listening.